What was that? Roger, what did you just say?
I'm afraid L is dead.
He's dead? But how? Was it Kira? Did Kira kill him? Come on, Roger, you've got to tell me!
Probably.
But he promised me he'd find Kira and execute him, and now you're telling me that he's been killed?
Mello!
If you can't win the game, if you can't solve the puzzle, then you're just a loser.
After the death of L, the task of catching Kira was left to two completely different prodigies. One chose chaos and risk, while the other chose control and calculation. Mello and Near, two of the geniuses who became the successors of the greatest detective himself, brought an end to the Kira's reign and solved the entire case. Both played a major role in Light's downfall. With all the accomplishments they achieved, it makes you wonder who would come out victorious if the two successors were pitted against each other. Would Mello, with his unpredictability, be able to counter Near's near-perfect calculations and finally claim the #1 spot he always believed he deserved, or would Near simply use Mello's emotions for his advantage? In this video, let's figure out who would win between the two.
You yielded to the power of the Shinigami in the notebook, and you have confused yourself with a god. In the end, you're nothing more than a crazy serial killer. That's all you are. Nothing more and nothing less.
From the moment Near was introduced, he quickly began rebuilding the Kira case from the scratch. With all the Kira-related files deleted by Watari, Near had to rely solely on fragmented communications with the Japanese task force, public records of Kira's killings, news report of Higuchi's arrest. From this, he was able to determine the existence of the Death Note and its current location, basic rules such as the name and face requirement. Despite starting with limited information, Near also deduced that there was a spy within the SPK. His reasoning, after it was revealed that the NPA possessed a weapon like the Death Note, a detail known only to SPK members. The NPA director was suddenly kidnapped. This suggested someone had leaked the information. The kidnapping seemed like an attempt to negotiate a trade for the notebook. But when the director was killed, Near realized something deeper was at play. If the kidnappers had killed the director, it would make no sense as they'd lose their leverage. But if Kira had killed him, it implied that Kira was hiding among the NPA and wanted to prevent any exchange. This strengthened Near's suspicion that Kira was within the task force. Near also deduced that Mello was involved in the kidnapping, as Mello had refused to work with Near to solve the case and disappeared after leaving Wami's house. The SPK couldn't find any trace of him. Given Near's deep understanding of Mello's psychology, he theorized that Mello was trying to catch Kira before he could. Near used the situation to strike a deal with the NPA, offering help with the kidnappers whilst secretly using the opportunity to identify and arrest Kira. As Near admitted, he gave the NPA false assurance because he strongly believed Kira was among them. Near repeatedly provoked Light, attempting to force emotional mistakes. He did this by making constant phone calls to disrupt Light's focus, publicly challenging Light's authority as L, planting seeds of doubt among the task force, which he does all the time throughout the second half of the Death Note. He also uncovered that the 13-day rule in the Death Note was fake. He confirmed this deception by analyzing rule inconsistencies and subtly pressuring Light during conversations. Near was also quick to identify Mikami as ex-Kira, as he connected the clues such as sudden pro-Kira TV appearances, perfectly timed executions, Mikami precise obsessive behavior. Using surveillance footage, bank records, and TV schedules, he traced Mikami's movements and discovered his daily routines. Over months of observation, Near determined when Mikami visited his bank to hide the real notebook. This allowed Near to create a flawless replica of the notebook, gradually replace places without detention, match Mikami's handwriting, maintain full surveillance throughout. As for the warehouse meeting, it was orchestrated by Near to force Light to act and expose himself. Through Mello's unpredictable interference, Light was pushed into emergency decisions. This time, pressure led to mistakes, which Near used to outmaneuver Light's final plan, ultimately leading to Kira's defeat.
It's not just the notebook I'm after. I want to eliminate my competition. I will be the best. I don't care what it takes. I'll beat Near by any means necessary.
After leaving Venice, Mello embedded himself in the criminal underworld. In a short time, he climbed the ranks and took control of the major mafia, something he achieved without any prior connections or external help. By using Takemura, Mello confirms that Kira is among the NPA, which becomes his starting point to get his hands on the Death Note. He follows this by kidnapping Sayu to force the NPA into making a deal, her life in exchange for the notebook. Thanks to his meticulous planning, the plan succeeds, and he even makes an unpredictable escape. After gaining possession of the Death Note, the first thing Mello does is eliminate all the SPK members whose information he obtained through his spy, including the spy himself. He then threatens the US president, coercing him into making a deal. But unlike his previous one-sided negotiation, this time Mello offers false hope, claiming that if the president cooperates, he'll hand over both existing notebooks to him. Mello also survives both assassination attempts orchestrated by the NPA. However, he loses the Death Note during the second raid, as he's forced to escape when he's cornered by Suichiro, who knew Mello's name through the Shinigami eyes. Most of Mello's allies are killed in the raid, but he managed to escape and continues his journey to bring down Kira. Now let's jump straight into his final plan and how it unfolds. Around that point, Near had already figured out who Kira is and even replaced the notebook he was carrying with a fake. But the problem was, Light had already predicted Near would do that. Light's whole plan was built around this idea that Near would steal Mikami's notebook, thinking it was real, and bring it to the final confrontation. Meanwhile, the real Death Note was still hidden by Mikami. Light planned for Mikami to bring it out at the last second, write everyone's name except Light and kill them all, making him getting his perfect victory. But Mello figures all this out as Mello realizes that Near wants to catch Kira in an act, not just with evidence, and Light knows this and is manipulating Near into thinking he has the real notebook. Mikami will notice the switch, and if the notebook Near stole is fake, he won't see a Shinigami with it, as Shinigami usually follow the real notebook. To cover that up, Mikami would act like the Shinigami just isn't visible temporarily. And here's the biggest clue. Mello had deduced that there are two notebooks being used, one held by the task force and the one that is being used to carry out the killings. That means Mikami doesn't have the real notebook, at least not the one killing people. So if Mikami's notebook isn't the one killing, then Takada must be doing it. Mello understood that Takada is Light's secret communication linked to Mikami. If Takada is removed from the equation, Mikami will panic, and in that panic, Mikami might be forced to use the real notebook, revealing its location. And that's exactly what Mello needed, a crack in the plan. How Mello does this, he first creates chaos near Takada's location using math to cause confusion, then disguises himself as he rescued Takada, knowing her bodyguard would play along. He then tricks the rest of the bodyguards by taking a route they can't follow and misleads them using her clothes and trackers. He takes Takada somewhere far away and isolates her completely. Why? Because now Light knows his most trusted ally is missing, and worse, she could be interrogated or forced to talk. Mello's move leaves Light with no way to contact Mikami. He's trapped, which means Light himself have to kill Takada in order to keep her mouth shut, as Mikami doesn't have the real notebook on him. So, to protect the plan, Light kills Takada. And here's the key point. While doing all this, Light didn't contact Mikami, meaning everything Light did after the kidnapping of Takada was something that isn't a part of the plan, which he told Mikami about previously, as now his main link of communication has been ripped away, and this is where the mistake happened, which led to Light's defeat. As with no contact, Mikami takes matters into his own hands while also writing Takada's name down in the real notebook, as he believes Light can't make any moves right now. And similar to Light, Mikami made his move without letting Light know about it, as he has no way of communicating with him, and Near's team, who's been watching Mikami, now sees him access a different notebook than the one they swiped earlier, and that's the slip up. Near realized that the notebook they had was a fake, as Mikami just used a real one, so Near switches that one too, creating a final trap that exposes Light. which only happened because of Mello intervened, meaning Mello anticipated the endgame of both Light and Near with almost no resource or anything, and he still played a big role in the finale. Now that we've gone over a breakdown of their individual feats, let's talk about how a battle between these two would go. Who would win in a direct battle between Mello and Near? Well, the truth is, it's very situational. Mello and Near aren't equals, not because one is simply smarter than the other, but because they shine in completely different areas. It really depends on what kind of situation we are placing them in. If the scenario revolves around manipulation, deception, strategic, unpredictability, and planning, Mello would have significant edge. He thrives in chaotic environments, despite Near also being capable in those categories. Mello's feat shows he's more willing to take extreme actions, make bold plays, and outmaneuver through sheer guts and psychological pressure. In other words, if it's about risk and aggression, Mello is the better pick. On the other hand, if the situation calls for pattern recognition, logical reasoning, deduction, fluid reasoning, analysis, or methods, then Near has a clear advantage over Mello, as he is calm and relentlessly logical. Near excels at putting the puzzle pieces together while keeping his emotion in check, something Mello often struggles with. So again, it all comes down to the context of the battle. But if you're asking me to choose between the two, I'd say Near would come out on top, but with very high to extreme difficulty. It wouldn't be an easy win, and honestly, it could go either way depending on the circumstances. These two were designed to complement and contrast each other, not to be simple rivals, but to represent different aspects of L's brilliance. But what do you think? Would Mello outplay Near in a hand-on showdown? Or do you agree with my reasoning that Near edges out and win? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, you know the drill. And I'll see you pretty soon in the next one.